Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Gardener. I hope you guys are fine and are safe at home. So guys, today we are going to be talking about whether we should keep or cut the bloom stalk. Now guys, it entirely depends upon you. If you're a kind of a person who likes to collect seeds from succulents, then this is a good option. Or if you're a kind of a person who likes to do cross pollination between two different varieties of succulents and create hybrids by collecting their seeds, then keeping the bloom stalk is very helpful. So guys, in this video we'll be not talking about how to collect seeds or how to do cross pollination and how to create hybrid succulents, because we are still on the first stage of keeping our succulents alive. Most of us are finding it difficult to even keep our succulents alive. So creating hybrid succulents is almost an intense level. So if you are into creating hybrids or into cross pollination and how to go about it, there are a couple of videos on YouTube you can definitely check. But in this video we'll be talking about whether is it good to keep the bloom stalk or is it better to cut it off. Now guys, if you're not a big fan of bloom stalks, then it's definitely a good idea to cut them off. I personally do not keep any bloom stalks for a lot of reasons. We'll be talking about that in this video. Now the first reason itself is, guys, as you can see, this bloom, it's falling downwards. Now this is how majority of the variety of succulents will get their bloom stalks like this. Now because the head of the bloom stalk starts to get heavy, hence they start falling downwards. Now it's not very attractive overall. Our succulents itself are so attractive, so these bloom stalks kind of spoil the aesthetic look. So that is one of the reason why I tend to cut it off, because the flowers are not very attractive. They tend to look like bell shape because they always tend to fall downwards. Apart from that, guys, what happens is when a bloom stalk is being produced by the succulent, the majority amount of nutrients is sucked up by the bloom stalk in order for it to grow and bloom. Now the mother succulent will be providing all the nutrition and energy to the bloom stalk so that the flowers on the bloom stalk will bloom. Now during this time, the bloom stalk starts taking all the nutrition from the mother succulent, due to which it starts becoming little weak. And you'll also notice that aesthetically the mother succulent starts looking little different. Now during this time, it's always better to cut off the bloom stalk if it's not necessary, so that the mother succulent can conserve the energy and can grow healthy. Another good reason to get rid of bloom stalks is because they tend to attract a lot of pests, especially aphids. Now over here you can see my bloom stalk was completely attacked with aphids, and you can imagine what's going to happen if your succulent is already affected with mealybugs in the root area, and now they are being attacked with aphids on the crown area near the bloom stalk. So you can imagine both these combinations of mealybugs and aphids can be a total destruction to your succulent. So in case if you're not very fond of the bloom stalks, or if it's of no use to you, I would advise please get it chopped off so that your succulent can be healthy. Now being said that, guys, it's not necessary that every bloom stalk of succulent will get affected with aphids and other pests. It all depends upon the growing conditions and the environment. Now, that also brings us to another point, guys. Not all the succulent varieties will have the same type of bloom stalks or the same pattern of blooming. Like over here you can see my Sedaveria hameli. The flowers have opened up and there are no pests. So you can see it all depends upon the variety and the succulent type. So for example, I have my Echeveria succulent over here. You can see how beautiful and healthy it looks. It was getting the proper growing conditions, as well as it was receiving a good fair amount of direct morning sunlight. And because the conditions were good, it started to bloom as well during the growing season. And here are the blooms of that particular succulent which I cut off. Now here also you can see, guys, the blooms are not very attractive. It might not be very attractive for some people because we have a different idea about flowers that tend to open up completely and they look beautiful. But over here in certain varieties like Echeverias, you can see the blooms do not open completely. They are in a shape of bell and they always tend to fall downwards because of the weight of those flowers. Now guys, I had to go ahead and cut off this bloom stalk because I do not collect the seeds. After getting rid of the bloom stalk, you can see how the succulent looks. You can compare both the images and see how much of difference the bloom stalk does to the succulent. Because it was almost blooming, it had taken a large amount of nutrients from the mother succulent. Hence, the mother succulent started becoming slightly weak and I had to go ahead and cut off the bloom stalk. So right now, the mother succulent is recovering and is getting better. So guys, whenever you're cutting any part of the succulent, be it a bloom stalk, stem or leaves, always ensure that you're using a sterilized blade, scissor or knife. Now guys, ensure that you do not cut it very close to the bloom stalk. Leave at least an inch and a half of the bloom stalk and then cut it off like this. Now guys, remember, whenever you do any kind of cutting or whenever you pull out anything from the succulent, always remember, do not water the same day or do not keep it in a place where there is danger of water or moisture coming in contact with the cut part. Now guys, even though this is a bloom stalk, there is an open cut and that can lead to a fungal attack, or it also can rot the succulent. So you have to be very careful that after you cut the succulent bloom stalk, ensure that it's kept in a dry place and does not come in contact with any water or moisture. So whenever I do any cutting on succulents, I always end up putting cinnamon powder because cinnamon powder has antifungal properties. Apart from that, cinnamon powder also helps to dry the wound faster. Now guys, this is a very good option. Always make it a practice that whenever you do any kind of cutting, just add a little bit of cinnamon powder. That will help the succulent fight any kind of fungal attack. Apart from this guys, as I said, any small cut, never ever expose your succulent to any water or any kind of moisture. Otherwise, even this small cut can cause a rot to the entire succulent. So now that the cinnamon powder is applied, now I'm going to let the succulent rest. I'm going to keep this succulent away from any kind of moisture and water and let it heal. In another 2 or 3 days, the succulent cuts will heal and it will get back to normal. So what do we do with the bloom stalk that we have cut off? Now guys, you can discard them because they will start to rot very soon. But before that, what you can do is there are going to be a couple of leaves on the bloom stalk that can be collected and propagated. But guys, the success rate can be very less because we have spoken about this earlier as well. Smaller the leaves, much more time for the pup to arrive, and the pup is going to be weak because the leaves are very small. But nevertheless, we can always give it a try and keep these leaves for propagation, and in couple of days or weeks they will start to root. Now guys, let me show you how the bloom looks like inside the bloom stalk. Now this is where if I tend to move these leaves also can be used for propagation, but the success rate is slightly less. Now this is how the bloom looks like. If I would have left this bloom stalk on the succulent, the flowers would have bloomed and it would have had these pretty pink flowers. But unfortunately, I do not collect seeds, so this goes to waste. So guys, I hope that this video has cleared your confusion to some extent, whether you want to keep the blooms or you want to cut it off. As I've said this in the beginning of the video, it all depends upon you whether you want to keep the blooms or cut it off. But we've also discussed about what are the disadvantages of keeping the blooms on succulent. So guys, if you like this video, please do share and subscribe to this channel. Until then, take care, stay safe, bye bye.